Welcome to the Magnetic Woman series. I'm your host, Lauren Joyce, and today I'm so honored and delighted to have Dr. Sarah Schewitz with us. And Dr. Schewitz is based out of Los Angeles, California, and has been working with couples and individuals since 2008. She inspires couples to live passionately and embrace growth in their relationships. She is passionate about helping people dream big and achieve their impossible through improving their life and relationships. She feels no one should settle for a life or relationship that is not full of joy, passion, and fulfillment. Welcome, Dr. Sarah Schewitz. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be really fun. I'm excited.
I'm really excited to have you. So why don't you tell everyone how you got into the field of relationships and what that's been like for you?
It's definitely been a passion of mine since as long as I can remember. I always loved hearing about my friends' relationships and talking to my friends about their relationships, and people just kind of naturally would gravitate to me to ask me questions. And then when I got into college, I started taking some psychology courses and then specifically courses on love and relationships. And I was like, I can't believe you can do this for a living. This is so fun. And so I just progressed along that course and really took it. I am a psychologist, so I had to get a doctorate in psychology to do that, and just really took it the full length of the program because it was just fun and exciting, and I loved studying it. And since I've been able to get my hands in there and actually do it, I absolutely love seeing people's relationships transform. Because we really, there's so many things we get training on in life, and relationships are probably the most important things in our lives, and we get zero training on them. So
I know.
Yeah.
It's so incredible, right? It's such an integral part of, and like you said, it's probably the most important thing in our lives, and yet we get no training. And I always tell women that. I'm like, look, it's just like, you don't know because you didn't take a class in college that's like how to have an empowered relationship. You know what I mean? So I'm so happy that you're here and doing the work that you're doing. So this series is based on helping women feel confident and sexy and attract in the love that they desire. So in your experience in your life, what do you think makes a woman magnetic?
So I think being magnetic is really being who you are, like genuinely in your heart, whether that be a super powerful, like boss babe, or whether it be, somebody who's a little more mellow and a little more laid back and like not as, into the business world. It doesn't matter to me what exactly is your personality. As long as you're authentically that, then you're going to attract in the right people. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years and helped other people learn over the years is that if you try and be somebody you're not to attract in the type of person you think that you want, that's never going to last long term, because eventually who you genuinely authentically are is going to come out, and they're going to be like, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not the person I started dating. So, then you're going to be a year in, 2 years in, whatever, and suddenly the relationship starts falling apart. So I think what's sexy and magnetic is just being who you authentically are.
I love it. And I know that so many of the women watching in your area of expertise, you work a lot with couples. So the women who are single, who are desiring and striving for a relationship, I know they have some fears around seeing relationships around them fail. And then there's some women watching right now who are in relationships and it's not going how they want it to go. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the work that you do specifically with couples and the power that you see is available to transform that. Because I know that some women may feel a little hopeless when it comes to problems arising in their relationship and whether or not they can actually have what they want.
Yeah, definitely. I think so much of it is communication and not having a course in that, right? You might have taken a communications course in college or something, but it's not how to interact in a romantic relationship.
Right.
And once you open that door and really learn how to effectively communicate, there is so much that can be done and there's so much that can be worked on. But it's that bridge, crossing that bridge, that a lot of people just get stuck on, and they keep having the same fight over and over again. They can't figure out why. They can't figure out why every little thing their partner does drives them nuts, or vice versa. And it's just so frustrating. And so
Yeah.
I think that's the first step, is really being vulnerable and being open and learning how to share what's on your heart with your partner in a way that they can hear it and really empathize with you and understand you, and then you guys can move forward.
And that is so critical and so key, right? Is how communicating in a way where they can hear you, where
Yeah,
they get it and they don't get defensive a lot of the time. That's what I see most often, is that in how we communicate, it sends the other person on the defense, right? And so,
100%.
yeah, communicating in a way that kind of like disarms that defensive nature for both men and women. I'm assuming, and I work I work only with women. The audience here is women, but since you work a lot with couples, I'd love to hear from your perspective, like what goes on for men too, in terms of like when the relationship is breaking down.
So men have it a little bit harder than women in this department, I think, because we naturally as women are nurturing. I mean, this is, of course, a huge generalization, but
Right.
we tend to be more nurturing. We tend to be more communicative and more comfortable talking about feelings. So women are the emotional leaders in relationships, generally speaking. And it's a lot easier for a woman to come into therapy, for example, and start talking about her feelings, whereas a man, he might not even recognize his feelings yet. He might not have had the years and years of training of talking about his feelings with his girlfriends or, with friends, to know, okay, I am feeling frustrated or I'm feeling sad. So a lot of times we're working just on the basics of like, okay, let's figure out what's going on here, because you're very used to just like going into your cave, figuring it out, and coming out when it's fixed or when you feel better. And that's a key communication difference in the genders, is that men tend to like retreat and figure it out on their own, and women want to engage and talk about their feelings and really like get into it. And so it's just kind of crossing that gender gap a lot of times in the initial sessions,
Yep.
and then getting them on the same playing field as far as like, okay, this is a very structured way to communicate with each other. So I teach a really structured way to talk about issues.
Oh, that's amazing. But men they feel when their relationship's breaking down and they
Oh, yeah.
care, right? I think sometimes women have this misconception that like we're the only ones being affected and I think sometimes women read into the men retreating as them not caring or not wanting to fix it. And so I wanted to kind of like bust that myth for the women, because if it feels one-sided, then that's not going to get you anywhere either. So I just wanted to like kind of highlight that no, they can. The guys care too, right?
They do. They just
Yeah.
get they get overwhelmed a little bit easier when it comes to emotional stuff. So when they're retreating, it's not necessarily that they don't care, like you said, it's that they're overwhelmed and they might be getting flooded, and they just need some time to like get their heart rate down, calm down, and then talk about it.
Yeah.
And for
Amazing.
men, I think a key thing is when that happens, and this happens to women too, tell your partner, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not thinking or functioning at my best right now. Can we come back to this in 30 minutes or 60 minutes? But like set that time frame, because that's super important for the partner who's being left essentially just waiting. They need to know when you're going to come back to it.
Yeah. And again, the structure is so, so key because it keeps everyone in the know, no, like open and able to communicate. So one thing I wanted to ask you is, outside of communication, because that's obviously really, really critical, what do you see tends to be the biggest issue with women in terms of themselves and how they're showing up in relationships? I mean, I guess it could be communication, but I see that too as like the paired, action and way that couples can enhance their relationships. But like for women who are starting relationships or maybe in relationships, what can they do to show up the most fully all of the time? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that. And I love that question because it's something that's so scary to do, to
Yeah.
show up fully, be
Hmm.
yourself 100%, and just pray that you're going to be accepted and loved as you are. It's
Totally.
terrifying.
It is.
Yeah. Um, so I think it's realizing, for me, it's realizing that whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen.
Mm,
And if you are authentically yourself and authentically sharing how you feel in any given moment, the outcome will work itself out one way or another,
mm,
So I think that's the biggest thing is like, just don't be afraid to show up as who you really are, because that's the person that, if you're in a new relationship, that's the person your partner's going to fall in love with. And
yeah.
be that person as soon as possible so that you're being loved for your authentic self.
Mm, yeah. And what about the women who are in relationships and have stopped showing up?
hmm It's usually because they've been met with so many frustrations and
Mm,
feel like they've been shut down so many times that they're just really scared to put themselves out there again.
yeah.
And it's interesting because there's kind of a pattern where women will try and try and try and like try to engage, try to talk, and then they become silent. And when they become silent, that's actually the scary part for the men. And that's when most men call me and say, "We need help."
Hurry! Hurry!
Yeah, and it's interesting. The men are the one that call me most of the time. So they
Fascinating.
are the action takers, but they often wait to the point where the wife is so fed up that she doesn't want to take action anymore.
Mm,
So I think it's not always up to you whether you get to that point or not, right? You can try and try and try,
right.
and if you don't get feedback, eventually you're going to get to that point. But once your husband or boyfriend or partner, whatever, is ready to work, try and give it that one more chance, because
Mm,
that's when the magic can really happen. When they start to
totally.
realize, like, oh God, I actually am losing her.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes, ladies, it does take the guys a little bit longer because, as Sarah was saying, they're not as in tune with their emotions and expressing it. And so it may take them a little bit. But Sarah, do you tend to see like certain patterns show up like in the couples that you work with, right? Are there certain patterns that occur that have kind of led them to the point of like relationship breakdown or even just like to the point where they're like, this just doesn't feel how we want it to feel. We want it to be better.
I'd say yes. There's something called the imago, and that is basically a conglomeration of traits of your childhood caretakers, anybody who was important to you in your life as a child. And your imago is like all the good and bad traits of those people
Mm,
combined. And that's who you are usually most attracted to. So if you meet somebody who is just like, oh my God, I feel like I've known them my whole life. I feel so strongly for them. It's only been a few weeks. I don't even understand what's going on. That typically is the person, one of the people, there can be many, that fits your imago. And
ah,
so that person feels really good. They feel like home. They feel just like a perfect fit. And they are uniquely suited to hurt you in the exact same way that those very important people in your life hurt you.
wow.
So, what happens is that you start to repeat these patterns and you start to
Mm,
open these childhood wounds that are like so painful.
yeah.
And you don't even have to have had a totally messed up childhood for this
Right.
to happen. Like, it could be my mom wasn't there for me as much as she could have been because she worked all the time and she was a single parent. And it's not like she was abusive or anything, but
Right.
then you start to attract people who might be distant and really work focused. And it just like
Mm,
that sense of abandonment comes back that you felt as a kid. So that is
mm-hmm.
what I see showing up in relationships. It doesn't have a a pattern in the sense that everybody's problems are the same, but in
Right.
the sense that you're triggered because of
Yes.
childhood stuff.
Totally. And that's then something that people can obviously work through because I know now women like the light bulbs are going off and they're like, oh, you mean that's why I'm feeling this way? And so talk to us a little bit about like what can people do? Obviously seeking professional help and working through these triggers and having someone guide you along that path is going to be critical. But
Definitely.
but there is a way to fix it, yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're single, the way to fix it is kind of to dig into that childhood stuff and figure out what triggered you, what some of the hurts were, and then how to fill them on your own without needing
Mm.
somebody in a relationship to fill them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that happens through conversations with your parents, or, caretakers. If your parents are not in the picture, or maybe your parents passed away, then it's conversations with people who were close to your parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents,
Yep.
things like that, to really understand where they were coming from and not
Mm.
take it so personally. Like, it
Mm.
wasn't necessarily about you, it was about their situation, their past, whatever.
Totally.
So that's a big part of it. And then in a relationship, because that person's able to trigger you in such a unique, powerful way,
Yeah.
they're also able to heal you in
Wow.
that unique, powerful way. So that's a lot of the work
Mm.
that we do, is really helping couples heal each other and support each other through those hurts.
That's amazing. And I'm sure is such a relief for so many of the women to hear. Because I think, well, as we were saying at the beginning of this interview, like we don't take any sort of class on healthy relationship dynamics, like showing up as an empowered woman in a relationship, like nothing like that. So everything we're learning is what has been modeled for us, which typically didn't work, right? And isn't necessarily what we want to take on. Or we're reading in popular magazines or like hearing from our friends or whatever. And so I know that sometimes it can feel exhausting and very frustrating for a lot of women who deeply desire like amazing, passionate love and yet feel like I have no idea how to get this. How can someone just break it down for me? And then when they start to get triggered, they feel broken or something's wrong with them or something. So I'm really that's one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you as part of this series to talk about and show these women that like, yeah, these triggers are coming up, but they're getting healed and then you get exactly what it is you want, which is this amazing love. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I notice as a pattern is that people don't realize the impact that childhood experiences have on them necessarily.
Yeah.
So I really just want to reiterate, like, you don't have to have had a terrible childhood or an abusive childhood or even a bad childhood in any way to have come out with childhood hurts. Everybody gets hurt by their parents or their caretakers at some time. Just
Yeah.
because you don't have the same like coping skills and logical ability to think about things at age 6 that you do at age 36.
Right. That makes
So,
so much sense. So much
yeah.
sense. And as a child, yeah, you fall down and, you think the world ended because you don't realize that like the blood's actually going to stop and you'll be fine, So that makes so much sense and I really appreciate you reiterating that. So what about for the women who maybe their relationship's going really well, but they have this desire for it to be even better? Like they don't want to get complacent. What would you say for that woman, or what does that woman do?
I think that is a lot of relationships where they are going well and they maybe don't see the need for therapy, but they also feel like it could be better or it could have more depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of little things that you can do. You can figure out what makes your partner feel loved and cared about. Like read the 5 love languages. I love that book. And
Mm-hmm.
start speaking their love language on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's like just this little thing, but it fills up your love tank essentially, so that when you do run into problems, you're not running on empty trying to like drive through this huge mud hole that's got all these things that are scary. So I like having an ongoing like goodwill bank, where you're just constantly like making deposits into
I
that
like
of like,
that.
I gave him a massage last night, or I made him his favorite dinner last night, and like
Mm-hmm.
every little thing. So then when you run into issues and you get depleted, you're not getting depleted to fully empty.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, if you ladies haven't checked out the Love Languages book, it's incredible. I think one of my biggest takeaways from it is that we tend to give how we want to receive. So even just knowing like, oh, maybe, and how you were saying too, like communicating in a way where your partner will be able to hear you. Like there's a whole reframing and a whole different perspective here that helps open things up. So that's amazing. And I love that, not like keeping your love bank full, because that is, you want to feel loved when you come into conflict. You don't want to feel already resentful or angry or frustrated.
It's so much easier to resolve things when there's a lot of goodwill already, because you're just more likely to want to work things out with them.
That makes
and I think
so much
also
sense. Yeah.
remember what the goal of the argument is when you're having an argument. Is it to be right, or is it to be happy? Is it to resolve the fight and move on and improve your relationship? Or is it to prove, like, without a shadow of a doubt that you were right? And when you kind of like shift your perspective to, is our goal the same? Our goal is to have a great relationship. So maybe we can each give a little to make that happen.
Huge, huge, ladies. Like, how willing are you to give up this need or desire to be right? And yeah, I feel like, and I don't know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I tend to see a lot, and when I talk to a lot of women, is like they take attitudes, energy, approaches that they take to business or entrepreneurship or other areas of their life, and they bring it into the relationship. And then it creates this more adversarial, competitive, like, energy, which that's not where passion and like romantic love thrives.
No, and if you're in a traditional relationship, male-female relationship, there is a balance there. And powerful women tend to take that balance. Sometimes it can get a little off kilter. And so, you can't approach your relationship like you approach your business. It's not, you can't just power through it. You got to really like finesse it and love it and be the receiver in that relationship.
Totally, totally. Yeah, and just when you said, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I even think of, not even necessarily entrepreneurs, but like, my mom works in education. And so it's kind of like with the kids, like, she's right a lot of the time, right? So it's like even those kinds of skills that just occur in other dynamics or other areas of our lives, it's like remembering that that's not going to move a romantic, passionate relationship forward. It may work like with the kids at school and, keep them in line, but that's not what's going to keep your partner in line, right? So yeah, very interesting. So interesting. So I would love to know what women can do, or let me ask you this. So it's important to keep the love tank full in the relationship so that when conflict arises, what about like for women just themselves in their lives? Like I see a lot of women give up a lot of things in their lives or let go of, passions or fun, really, especially when they've been married for a long time. Maybe they have kids. Like their priorities change. But how important is it for a woman to like be invested in herself, I guess?
It's so important. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like a lot of women do give up so much of themselves in relationships, and especially when they become mothers, and then they feel resentful. And when you feel resentful, you're not really in a great place to have a relationship or be a great parent or a friend, anything. Yeah. So it seems selfish sometimes to take that time back and say, okay, I'm not going to take the kids to soccer today. I'm going to go to the spa instead and get a massage because I can tell I'm getting stressed out and I'm not being a present parent or a present partner. But you're doing so much more for your family by doing that and by taking care of yourself. And it is really important to keep yourself and stay independent.
Yeah, definitely.
Because nobody is responsible for your happiness. You're the only person responsible for that. And if your partner starts to feel like their actions have such a big impact on your happiness versus you taking care of it on your own, that's a hard place for a partner to be in. It's too much responsibility.
Yeah, both ways.
Mm-hmm.
right?
True,
Like
because you
both.
lack control then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. And I was even saying too, if like you feel like your partner's happiness is dependent on your actions, that's too much responsibility for the woman as well,
It
right? So
is.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much for all of this incredible, incredible information. I know so many of the women, especially the ones who are in relationships right now, are like loving what they heard from you today. And ladies, Sarah has been so gracious to give everyone a free gift, which you can get by clicking on the button below the video. Sarah, do you want to tell them what the free gift is?
Yeah, we actually talked a little bit about it already. It's something that's going to help you fill up your and your partner's love tank.
Amazing.
So it's, I think, probably a perfect fit for what we were talking about. But it's called the caring list, and it's a way that you can really express to your partner what you want in the relationship, and then your partner can express that to you, and you guys can make a commitment to filling up your love tanks every single day. So it includes a PDF download, 2 videos to help you out getting started. They're videos of me working with an actual couple, so you
Oh,
can kind of see what
amazing.
it's like in session to go over the caring list.
Oh, amazing. I know that that structure, because you had mentioned like so much of what you do is based on creating and giving couples the structure and framework to better their relationships and to move them to the place that they want to go. So I know that having that structure, even just to fill your love tank, is going to be so critical for so many women. So again, ladies, just click on the button below the video and you'll be able to access the caring list. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you feel left on in your mind or on your heart that you want to share with the women watching?
One thing I would just say is if you want more training and education, essentially, because we've talked so many times about you just don't get the training on this.
Totally.
I do have a membership program that's an amazing resource for that. It's called
Wow.
coupleslearn.com. And
Amazing.
it's a program where you can see videos of me working with couples, get tons more exercises like the caring list, learn that communication technique that I was
Mm,
talking about so that you can really communicate and be heard
mm-hmm.
effectively, and a lot more stuff. There's a whole 6-week course in there
Oh,
called The Ultimate Guide to Repairing Your Relationship. So, and you get monthly coaching calls with me as well. So there's a lot of great resources to
oh
help
my
you
goodness.
improve your
And they
relationship
can do this from anywhere, right? They don't have
from
to be in
anywhere.
LA. Okay.
Mm.
Amazing. Ladies, make sure you go over and check that out because I know so many of you watching right now would really benefit from having access to Sarah like that in from the comfort of your own home to really create the relationships that you desire. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Sarah. I hope so many of the women take you up on it because that's an incredible, incredible resource. So, ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this interview. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. It's been such an honor to have you.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Oh, you're so welcome. And ladies, keep an eye on your inbox for more from the Magnetic Woman series. Have a good day.